boys and girls at home, who do we have? We have Violet and Romeo and, Lindley and Jyla and Peyton and David Schneider. We miss you guys. Guys, do we miss them? All right, boys and girls, they want you to know that we've decided Jack Will is no longer Jack Will. He is Jack-o'-lantern Will. Okay, and he is telling the story right now. So, chapter, I don't know, because there's no numbers. Chapter, Fortune Favors the Bold. That's the name of this chapter. Fortune Favors the Bold. The Bold. Does anybody have a guess what that is? A fortune cookie? That's a good guess. Bold. B-O-L-D, not bowl. Bold. Fortune favors the bold. All right, I'm sorry, they're a little talky today. Mr. Brown's December precept. Remember? The life lessons, the themes that Mr. Brown teaches each month. Mr. Brown's December precept was fortune favors the bold. We were all supposed to write a paragraph about some time in our lives when we did something very brave and how, because of it, something good happened to us. I thought about this a lot, to be truthful. I have to say, I think the bravest thing I ever did was become friends with August. But I couldn't write that, of course. I was afraid we'd have to read it out loud, or Mr. Brown would put them up on the bulletin board. Hello? Sure. Okay, thanks. Lady Willow, hey, real quick. Oh, I'm not supposed to say names. Sorry, kids, you didn't hear that. Sneak this onto Mrs. Pulley's desk. Can you be sneaky? Don't tell her. Just sneak it on there and let her find it.
Thank you.
Sneak it on there.
She said her name again.
I don't know if I can get in trouble for saying a teacher name. Okay. But I couldn't write about that, of course. I was afraid we'd have to read it out loud, or Mr. Brown would put them on the bulletin board, and he does that sometimes. So instead, I wrote this lame thing about how I used to be afraid of the ocean when I was little. It was dumb, but I couldn't think of anything else. I wonder what August wrote about. He probably has had a lot of opportunities for things to choose from. The next chapter is called Private School. My parents are not rich. I say this because people sometimes think that everyone who goes to private school is rich. But that isn't true with us. Dad's a teacher and Mom's a social worker, which means they don't have those kind of jobs where people make gazillions of dollars. We used to have a car, but we sold it when Jamie started kindergarten at Beecher Prep. We don't live in a big brownstone or in one of those doorman buildings along the park. We live on the top floor of a 5-story walk-up. We rent it from an old lady named Donna Petra, all the way on the other side of Broadway. That's code for the section of North River Heights where people don't want to park their cars. Me and Jamie share a room. I overheard my parents talk about things like, can we do without air conditioning one more year? Or maybe I can work 2 jobs this summer. So today at recess, I was hanging out with Julian and Henry and Miles and Julian, who everyone knows is very rich, was like, I hate that I have to go back to Paris for Christmas. It's so boring. Dude, but it's like Paris, I said. Believe me, it's so boring, he said. My grandmother lives in this house in the middle of nowhere. It's like an hour from Paris, and it's a tiny, tiny, tiny village. I swear, Nothing happens there. I mean, it's like, oh wow, there's a fly on the wall. Look, there's a new dog sleeping on the sidewalk. I laughed. Sometimes Julian can be funny. Though my parents are talking about throwing a big party this year instead of going to Paris. I hope so. What are you doing over break? Said Julian. Just hanging out, I said. You're so lucky, he said. I hope it snows again, I answered. I got this new sled that is so amazing. I was about to tell them all about lightning, but Miles started talking first. I got a new sled too, he said. My dad got it from Hamaker Schlemmer, maybe? I think it must be a fancy store. It's so state-of-the-art. How could a sled be state-of-the-art? Said Julian. It was like $800 or something. Whoa. We should all go sledding and have a race down Skeleton Hill, I said. That hill is so lame, answered Julian. Are you kidding? I said. Some kid broke his neck there. That's why they call it Skeleton Hill. Julian narrowed his eyes and looked at me like I was the biggest moron in the world. It's called Skeleton Hill because it is on an ancient burial ground. Duh, he said. Anyway, it should be called Garbage Hill. Now, it's so junky. Last time I was there, it was so gross. There were soda cans and broken bottles. He shook his head. I left my old sled there, said Miles. It was the crappiest piece of junk, and someone took it, too. Maybe a hobo wanted to go sledding, laughed Julian. Where did you leave it? I said. By that big rock at the bottom of the hill. And I went back the next day and it was gone. I couldn't believe someone actually took it. Here's what we can do, said Julian. Next time it snows, my dad could drive us all up to the golf course in Westchester that makes Skeleton Hill look like nothing. Hey, Jack, where are you going? I had started to walk away. I've got to get my book out of my locker, I lied. I just wanted to get away from them fast. I didn't want anyone to know that I was the hobo who took the sled. In science. I'm not the greatest student in the world. I know some kids actually like school, but I honestly can't say that I do. I like some parts of school. I like PE, and I like computer time, and lunch and recess, but that's all. I'd be fine without school, and the thing is, I hate the most about school is all the homework we get. It's not enough that I have to sit through class after class and try to stay awake the whole time while they fill our heads with stuff that we will probably never need to know. Like how to figure out the surface area of a cube, or what the difference is between kinetic and potential energy. I'm like, who cares? I've never, ever heard my parents say the word kinetic in my entire life. I hate science the most of all. We get so much work, it's not even funny. And the teacher, Miss Rubin, is so strict about everything. Even the way we write our headings on the top of our paper. I once got 2 points off my homework assignment because I didn't put the date on top. Crazy stuff. When me and August were still friends, I was doing okay in science because August sat next to me and always let me copy his notes. August has very neat handwriting. Even his script is neat. Up and down perfectly with really small, round, loopy letters. And now that we're ex-friends, it's bad because I can't ask him to help me copy can't ask him to let me copy his notes anymore. So I was kind of scrambling today, trying to take notes about what Miss Rubin was saying. My handwriting is awful. When all of a sudden, she started talking about the 5th grade science fair project. How we all had to choose our science project to work on. While she was saying this, I was thinking, we just finished the stupid Egyptian project. Now we have to start all over with a new thing? And then in my head, I was going, oh no. No! Ah! like the kid in Home Alone, with his mouth hanging open and his hands on his face. That was the face I was thinking inside my head. And then I thought of those pictures of the melting ghost faces I've seen somewhere, where the mouths are wide open and they're screaming. And then all of a sudden this picture flew into my mind. This memory. And I knew. Anybody? And I knew what Summer had meant by bleeding scream. It's so weird how it all came to me, like a flash. Someone in homeroom had dressed up in a bleeding scream costume on Halloween. I remember seeing him a few desks away from me, and then I remember not seeing him again. Oh man, it was August. All of a sudden it hit me in science class while the teacher was talking. Oh man, I'd been talking to Julian about August. Oh man, now I understood. I was so mean. I don't even know why. I'm not even sure what I said. But it was bad. It was only a minute or two. It's just that I knew Julian and everybody thought it was so weird for me hanging out with August all the time, and I just felt stupid. And I don't know why I said that stuff. I was just going along. I'm stupid. Oh God. He was supposed to be Boba Fett. I would have never said that stuff if Boba Fett was there. But that was him. That bleeding scream sitting on the desk looking over at us. That long white mask was squirting blood. The mouth wide open, like the ghoul was crying. That was him. I felt like I was going to puke. Partners. I didn't hear a word of what Miss Rubin was talking about. Blah, blah, blah. Marp, 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 marp. Science fair project. Marp, 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 marp. Partners. Blah, blah, blah. Is that what you guys hear when I'm talking?
Yes. No. Well, some things I do hear that.
It was like the grown-ups who talk in Charlie Brown movies. Like someone was talking underwater. Water. Wah, 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 wah. Then, all of a sudden, Miss Rubin started pointing to kids around the class. Reed and Tristan, Maya and Max, Charlotte and Exemia, August and Jack. She pointed at us, and she said, Miles and Amos, Julian and Henry, Savannah and... I didn't hear the rest. Huh? I said. The bell rang. So, don't forget to get together with your partners to choose a project from this list, guys, said Miss Rubin as everyone started taking off out of the door. I looked up at August, but he had already put on his backpack and was practically out the door himself. I must have had a stupid look on my face because Julian came over and said, Looks like you and your best friend are partners. He was smirking when he said this. I hated him so much. Hello? Earth to Jack Will, he said, and I still didn't answer him. Shut up, Julian. I was putting on my loose leaf binder away in my backpack, and I just wanted him to get away from me. You must be so bummed you got stuck with him, he said. You should tell Miss Rubin you want to switch partners. I bet she'd let you. No, she wouldn't, I said. Ask her. No, I don't want to. Miss Rubin, Julian said, turning around and raising his hand at the same time. Miss Rubin was erasing the chalkboard in the front of the room. She turned when she heard her name. No, Julian, I whispered. What is it, boys? She said impatiently. Could we switch partners if we wanted to? Said Julian, looking very innocent. Me and Jack had this science fair project idea that we really wanted to do together. Well, I guess we could arrange that, she started to say. No, it's okay, Miss Rubin, I said quickly and headed out the door. Bye! Julian ran after me. Why'd you do that? He said, catching up to me at the stairs. We could have been partners. You don't have to be friends with that freak if you don't want to, you know. And that's when I punched him right in the mouth.
Oh, boy! Can't wait to get
The next chapter's called Detention. Some things you can't explain. You don't even try. You don't know where to start. All your sentences would jumble up like a giant knot in your open mouth. Any words you used would come out wrong. Jack, this is very, very serious, Mr. Tushman was saying. I was in his office, sitting on a chair across from his desk, and a picture of a pumpkin on the wall behind him. Kids get expelled for these kinds of things, Jack. I know you're a good kid, and I don't want that to happen, but you have to explain yourself. This is not like you, Jack, said Mom. She had come from work as soon as they had called her. I could tell she was going back and forth between being really mad and really surprised. I thought you and Julian were friends, said Mr. Tushman. We're not friends, I said, my arms crossed in front of me. But to punch someone in the mouth, Jack, said Mom, raising her voice. I mean, what were you thinking? She looked at Mr. Tushman. Honestly, he's never hit anyone before. He's just not like that. Julian's mouth was bleeding, Jack, said Mr. Tushman. You knocked a tooth out. Did you know that? It was a baby tooth, I said. Jack, said Mom. That's not what the nurse said. You're missing the point, Mom yelled. I just want you to know, said Mr. Tushman, raising his shoulders. It'll make everything worse, I sighed. Just tell me, Jack. I shrugged, but I didn't say a word. I just couldn't. If I told him that Julian had called August a freak, then he'd go to talk to Julian. Then Julian would tell him how I had badmouthed August too, and then everyone would find out about it. Jack, Mom said. I started to cry. I'm sorry. Mr. Tushman raised his eyebrows and nodded, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he just blew into his hands like you'd do if you were cold. Jack, he said, I don't really know what to say here. I mean, you punched a kid. We have rules about that kind of thing, you know? Automatic expulsion. And you're not even trying to explain yourself. I was crying a lot by now. The second Mom put her hands around me, I started to bawl. Let's, said Mr. Tushman, taking off his glasses. Let's, do this, Jack. We're out for winter break as of next week, anyway. How about you stay home for the rest of this week, and then after winter break, you'll come back, and everything will be fresh and new. Clean slate, so to speak. And am I being suspended? I sniffled. Well, I said. Well, he said, shrugging. Technically, yes, but it's only for a couple days. And I'll tell you what, while you're at home, you take the time to think about what happened. And if you want to write me a letter explaining what happened, and a letter to Julian apologizing, then we won't put any of this in your permanent record, okay? Now you go home and talk with your mom and dad, and maybe in the morning you'll figure it out a bit more. That sounds like a good plan, Mr. Tushman, said Mom. Thank you so much. Everything is going to be okay, said Mr. Tushman, walking over to the door. I know you're a nice kid, Jack, and I know sometimes even nice kids do dumb things, right? He opened the door. Thank you for being so understanding, said Mom, shaking his hand. No problem. He leaned over and told her something quietly that I couldn't hear. I know. Thank you, said Mom. So, kiddo, he said, putting his hand on my shoulder. Think about what you've done. And have a great holiday. Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Hanukkah. I wiped my nose on my sleeve and started walking out the door. Say thank you to Mr. Tushman, said Mom, tapping my shoulder. I stopped and turned. I couldn't look at him. Thank you, Mr. Tushman, I said. Bye, Jack, he answered. Then I walked out of the door. The next chapter's called Season's Greetings.